LinkedIn, a waste of space on your phone or a valuable resource? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about a platform that I use day in and day out, and that's LinkedIn. It's a platform that quite a few people know about, but a lot of people don't use, or in some capacity have used for a little bit and just generally don't kind of keep up with. So I really wanted to make this video about how LinkedIn can be useful for both young professionals and then students alike, right? Regardless of kind of where you're at, whether you're working for a company, you have your own business, or you're in school, right? Either way, LinkedIn is a valuable, almost like resume-like resource, and that's why I really wanted to make a video kind of covering this stuff and just overall tips for effective LinkedIn networking. LinkedIn is a platform that I use every single day. I don't use it as much anymore, but particularly when I was in sales and in like network marketing, I used it quite a bit. It's valuable for a lot of different reasons. You know, you get to network with old alumni, so I use it to network with like Purdue alum, you know, people that are older than me, or even just like people that like I went to school with but weren't like super close enough to have added on like other social media or things like that. So that's why it can be a very, very good resource for just generally keeping up with people and kind of seeing what they're up to in terms of their career paths, or if they decided to go to grad school, or if they opened up a business. LinkedIn is kind of the place where most people kind of post job updates or like advertising for their businesses, or really just kind of where people are at professionally. So I don't know about you, but I really like seeing where people are at in terms of like people I went to school with, both in high school and Purdue, right? You know, obviously you have your Facebook, your Instagram, and Snapchat, and that's kind of the more day in, day out, day to day, right? LinkedIn is more of just like your professional networking and just seeing like some of the biggest accomplishments of people that you've kind of gotten to know, whether that's a little bit or a lot back in the day, right? And that's something that I think is really cool, just kind of see that growth over time. And I find that honestly really motivating, right? Because these are people that you've interacted with in the past. Who knows, at some point you never know who can open a door for you. So I think it's really cool not only to see where people are at, but just to generally stay connected to them, even if that's like twice a year or something like that. So LinkedIn also acts as a second resume. In fact, when you're applying for jobs online, most job boards and applications will have you import your LinkedIn rather than a resume. They generally find it, first off, easier to read, and second off, you can compile so much information on there. Think of it as like a running live resume, though you should be updating your resume and your CV, which is just like an extended resume and things like that pretty often. Your LinkedIn is kind of like the social media version of that, something that you would update kind of not necessarily day to day or week to week, but more month to month, kind of as things change. It's a live template for you to essentially update. And I find it very easy to use. I think the platform is very, very well set up. And that's what I really like about it, both on mobile and then on desktop. So you don't need to be at a computer, versus with a resume, you're typing a document or something like that. With LinkedIn, it's like social media. You just download it to your phone and you can start like uploading photos, inputting information and things like that. It's just super, super helpful. The other place it really helps you is really just networking with recruiters. So I wrote this down because that's the one thing that I think is super, super important to hit. It's a great place to really just like say thank you instead of like writing a thank you email or like things that are traditional like that. Almost every single recruiter, staffer, agency, manager, regardless of who's involved in your interview process, most professionals are on LinkedIn. It's kind of the go-to place, and a lot of people, especially younger folks like myself, don't necessarily know that or don't necessarily gravitate to that. We're still writing emails in 2022, which, you know, at the end of the day is totally fine. I know there's the whole idea of like even sending a real letter through the mail just because it helps you stand out, which is great. But LinkedIn also helps because the majority of people our age often don't realize how valuable it is and how normal it is for a platform like that to be used as a way to say thank you, or as a way to kind of even just check on the status of your application, reaching out to recruiters, and reaching out to the people you've interacted with within the job interview process. It's a great place for really networking with also future managers and coworkers, and learning how to essentially excel in a role before you even start. So before, say, like you're right out of college, you're about to start your first major job, right after that, right? It's a great place to kind of reach out to people that either currently work for the company, have worked for the company in the past in the role that you're currently in, or even like management, things like that, and start just getting your name out there, right? Start reaching out and saying, hey, really love to learn more about what you do, or just generally just do a one-on-one with someone and get a sense of kind of what they're like, and just generally becoming more ingrained with the culture. LinkedIn is a great way to start initiating those conversations if you're not at the company yet. And it's super helpful for that personal branding and getting your name out there. For those of you that are in sales or in something that's kind of like recruiting or anything where you're reaching out to people or you're needing to find people to like sell to or advertise to or recruit or anything like that, LinkedIn is obviously a great resource to do that. You might have to buy like LinkedIn Premium, or just get to that higher tier where you can start seeing more insights into like random people's profiles and things like that. But it's very helpful for that. That's not necessarily the purpose of this video. I used it a lot in sales and then for the brief period that I was with Amway as well, in network marketing, and it can be very useful for things like that. But I like to see it a lot more as like a recruiting and networking tool more than anything. So just be very careful when you're reaching out to people. Finally, LinkedIn is also a great place for really just creating a positive community and motivation. We all know, like we look at like Twitter, Instagram, things like that we use day to day. There's a lot of negativity on there. That's kind of what happens to every social media platform over time, right? And it could happen to LinkedIn one day, but right now LinkedIn is very much in the phase where, you know, you have a ton of different people sharing the professional and even personal accomplishments that are like super positive. You know, you get to see where everybody's at. You can get motivated because there's like quotes and videos, and it's just cool to see progression in the lives of people that you knew, and even just post like updates from yourself, whether you got a new job or you started a business or you're advertising for something. It's a very positive place. Here you'll find mostly a really great community of people that are willing to support you no matter kind of where you're at, and that's what I really like about LinkedIn. So I wanted to break this down into my biggest tips for effective LinkedIn networking. Now, not like a LinkedIn expert or anything like that, but it's helped me get jobs. It's helped me kind of get my name out there for where I'm at currently, and it's just been a great resource so far. So again, it's just a resource. It's not like the end all be all, but it's just another thing that you should definitely be spending time in. And that kind of leads into the first point, is just make sure you have an up-to-date profile. Quite a few people, particularly if you're in business or in a career path where there is a ton of networking involved, in-person events aren't the only place you can network. LinkedIn is a huge place that you can network and just generally get your name out there. And you'll have recruiters that might be constantly reaching out to you all the time, or even just like looking at your profile. So you're going to want to make sure your profile is up to date with your latest achievements, accomplishments, classes, jobs. You know, it's basically your live resume. It's basically a resume, but just in another format. And that's what I always like to compare it to. Just pretend that this is your second resume, right? You can definitely upload your resume and CV to it as like PDF attachments, but I would also like actually write all of those things in onto your profile and update everything, right? As much information you can have on there. Go into massive detail. Like, this is not a place where you want to be sure this is a place where you want to highlight every single thing you've ever done and like essentially created any value you've created, whether that's like a project or, you know, certification or course or anything like that. So it can just create what I like to call is essentially human capital, and adds to your hireability and reputability as a candidate within the job interview process. So once your like profile and everything like that is like set up and you know it's like up to date, you know, obviously regularly come back and update this, especially as you reach different milestones like career changes or things like that. Just making sure that you're actually building your connection base on LinkedIn, because that's actually where LinkedIn is going to work its magic, is when you have more connections. Think of it as like your friends list almost, right? People that are added. Now, don't start going around and adding random people. I know a lot of people will do that. To give you an example, I only add people that I've known or have interacted with, both in school or like a job where we have something in common, right? Like there's not a random reason that I'm just connecting with them, but I either have something in common with them or I'm interested in talking to them. So that's why I would send somebody a connection request, and those are also the ones that I accept, right? So I'm kind of picky on the ones that I accept and the connections that I specifically keep in my network. So go back to like, just once you start adding more people, you'll start having more recommendations show up. So just like add, a good amount of just people that you went to school with, high school, college, any other schooling or educational things that you've done, as well as jobs that you've worked at. As long as you had a good relationship with all of these people, of course, it's perfectly normal if you're at a company and it says you're at that company on your profile to just go ahead and add everybody at that company, because you never know what kind of doors can be open. You can even include a little message with your connection invite that says, hey, I'm in this department, or I do this. I would really love to connect. And just connect doesn't necessarily mean you have to talk to them, but it's just, again, it's a great way to just open some of those doors. And most people are more than willing to accept your connection request. Once you have more connections added, your news feed is going to populate. You'll be able to see what people are up to, new accomplishments, posts, things like that. So treat this like any other social media. Look at this, every couple days or every day or anything like that. Just whenever you have downtime, it's a great place to just check on achievements, see what people are up to. It's just another news feed that you should be checking day to day. Because again, it's just a positive community that you want to establish your brand and yourself as a part of. So you can just continue to be a part of that and even post and share content yourself. I think that once you start getting comfortable with that later down the line, definitely start adding to the community yourself rather than just like posting job updates or things that are just specifically about you. You also want to support other people, right? So even if that's like a congratulations message under someone's post, or literally just like any other social media, the way you would comment and like interact with people, that's exactly how you want to treat LinkedIn. It's literally the same thing, just more professional and a little bit more positive. So with that in mind, one thing I really wanted to highlight as well, once you start connecting with quite a few people, you are going to be seen more as a profile, so people can see your profile. You actually get a notification from them. I think you have to have like premium now in order to actually see who views it, but really doesn't matter. It's like a resume. People can just access it from everywhere. Like, who cares, right? A lot of times you'll have recruiters that are reaching out to you from like various companies. They can be totally unrelated to your field. But what I always like to say is make sure you respond to every single recruiter, even if that means like setting up a template, which is what I do, to just send to every single recruiter, because you're most likely saying the exact same thing in every interaction, like, hey, you're not looking for opportunities right now, or you are, right? And then you can definitely take the next step. So don't brush off all the recruitment messages. They can definitely add up depending on what career path you're in, but it's worth spending like just a second to send that message out and just acknowledge them, right? Instead of only responding when you actually need a job or need that opportunity, it helps to just develop those relationships by sending something as simple as, hey, I'm not looking for a role right now, but thank them for reaching out, and then say that you'll keep them in mind, happy to stay connected, or something like that. So this way in the future, if you actually do need them for something, or if you need a certain opportunity from them, if they're still recruiting for a role that you want, for example, that they've reached out to you about in the past, you'll have that message there, and they'll, if you're familiar with a recruiter's job, they're reaching out to so many people. It's almost like sales. Without reply. So it just helps you stand out a little bit more. They'll be more likely to respond to you and help you out because you've responded to them and at least given them an answer, because most of the times recruiters don't get an answer. They're just reaching out to quite a few different people and they're often ignored, just like in sales. So it definitely helps to have that rapport. Like, trust me, it's going to pay off. I actually got my most recent job, which was started originally as a contract role, because of that. Because I respond to recruiters all the time. And when I was looking, all I did was just reach out to recruiters that I've responded to, and it saved me a ton of work when I was looking for a new role. So it can be very helpful. So once again, kind of like I talked briefly about in the intro, if you accepted an offer, really use this to say thank you, and just like instead of writing those emails or those letters or any of those outdated things, this is a very common place to reach out and say thank you to the interviewing team, people that have been a part of the process that you went to, and even just start networking with people at the company that you're about to work at, right? So like either meeting with them or just asking a couple questions to become more comfortable with the company and the team, right? Really ingraining yourself into the culture. And that's what I really love about LinkedIn. That's what I've used it for quite a bit. Almost every time I start a new role, I usually reach out to people within the company that are in that specific role or have been in that role in the past, and schedule like a 15 or 20 to 30-minute call just to get a little bit of insight from them and kind of tips for success in that role, right, before you even get there. And I find those conversations are usually so much more helpful than just reading a job listing or reading a book or anything like that. Like, there's no better way to prepare yourself for something than just getting insight from the people that have already done it successfully in the past. Two big last LinkedIn tips that I really want to touch on is just be clear and concise in your messaging. I'm at the age now where I start to feel old. It's only been 2 years since I left college, but now I'm getting people reaching out to me, which is great. I love helping people. I was literally in their shoes not that long ago. In some ways, I still feel like I am in their shoes. So it's a great opportunity for me to learn about other people, network with them that I've been in a similar space with, and also help them out if I can. I think it's really cool. So definitely be accessible when people reach out to you. But this tip is specifically about being clear and concise in your messaging, because what I've noticed, and this isn't to call anyone out or anything like that, I'll get some people that have reached out that just send message after message after message, and there seems to not be too much thought there. And it can sometimes get a little annoying when you're getting message after message after message, instead of just one contextualized message with exactly what they're asking. It's just, remember that this isn't like other social media, and you're not reaching out to people that you're like friends with or super close with or anything like that, right? So your messaging should change. It should be a little bit more professional. It doesn't have to be like super formal like an email, because again, this is 2022. LinkedIn is basically social media. So just plan out your messages in advance. Make sure you're sending one or at most two messages when you reach out to somebody. You're not sending multiple on end, and give them time to reply. This is something that I thought everybody knew. It is kind of a conversational thing that I'm realizing that quite a few people don't know about, and that's why I wanted to touch on it in this video, because I've had people reach out to me like this. Nothing against them. I think because I'm so young, I understand, and I'm I'm very lenient about this stuff, but I know there's so many folks out there that aren't, right? And when you reach out to them, I'm sure you want to put the best foot forward. So just be very careful about the way you're structuring your messages. You don't have to be like OCD about it. Keep it professional, keep it concise, only write like one message or two messages. Like, plan this stuff out in advance. Just be respectful of the time of whoever you're reaching out to, especially if you want their help or you want to talk to them about something. Remember that they're also giving up their time to help you, which I'm always happy to, for example, but also expect that people that reach out are respectful of my time, and kind of understand that everybody's busy at the end of the day, right? So you want to make sure you're giving people time to both respond and also just digest your messages. And then lastly, I don't want to spend too much time on this. LinkedIn is a place where people get a notification if someone views their profile. Now you can turn that off, but then you also, if you don't want to be seen if you're viewing someone else's profile, but then you also can't see who's viewed yours. So I think there's a certain limit to how many people you see if you have the free version. I don't pay for LinkedIn. I had the premium through like a couple different jobs I've had before. Sometimes jobs will give it to you, so you'll be able to see every single person that looks at it. That being said, don't worry too much. If people reach out, sometimes they're just looking around. Again, you have tons of recruiters, tons of salespeople, tons of people that are just genuinely looking around on LinkedIn, like any other social media, right? So don't, get too worried if someone's looking at your profile, regardless if it's someone you know or a recruiter or anything like that. Just don't worry about it. And the end all be all advice I like to give there is just, it doesn't matter. They're just looking at your profile. It literally is not the end of the world. Like, who cares? I don't even look at those notifications anymore. I used to be very self-conscious about it, like a couple years ago, and I know quite a few people are. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there as my last essential LinkedIn networking tips. With that being said, just to kind of conclude all of this, those were my biggest tips for LinkedIn networking, and from my experience, how I think you can put your best foot forward on LinkedIn and really start getting some traction in your digital networking lifestyle. So remember again that LinkedIn is like any tool. It may definitely become oversaturated one day. Facebook once upon a time used to be super great for this stuff. Apparently professionals may move to something else. It may happen. It may even happen right after posting this video. But at the end of the day, currently, at the time of recording, LinkedIn is a great digital place for really just networking, being able to put yourself out there within the professional world, regardless of what industry you're in. Most industries do use LinkedIn, so it's just a great place to really start creating those relationships and just generally being part of such a positive professional community. And on top of that, LinkedIn also has LinkedIn Learning, which I'm sure you've heard about before. Great platform for taking courses and like programming and just like all sorts of different things that I'm sure you probably heard about before. So I'm not like being sponsored by LinkedIn or anything to say that. I've used it before and it's so great. It's like knowledge, right? They have their own certifications and there's so much. LinkedIn is such a great platform, and I really hope it doesn't become oversaturated and people stop using it anytime soon, because I really enjoy using it. So anyways, y'all, that's the video. Leave some comments and really let me know what you guys think. You know, I'm really trying to make sure I pack as much value as I can in as little time as possible into these videos. Let's really smash that like button and get this video trending higher than the amount of views your LinkedIn profile is about to get as soon as you finish watching this video and implement all of those tips. And please subscribe if even a fraction of any of my videos and any of my content really resonate with you. So I'll see everybody in the next one. Peace out.